Okay, I wanna start with this because this does lead into the economic conversation. Can we show that Anna Navarro thing?
You know me. I have been talking for months, like a broken record, about how Miami has been bombarded by this narrative that the voting for any Democrat was voting for a socialist, was voting for a communist, and we saw it pan out last night.
And I've got to get to the break.
It might be false, but it doesn't mean it didn't work.
I've got to get to the break, but I think you're right, and I think that is something that should be analyzed because you saw the ads in certain places, and you hear people talking in focus groups about voting for a Democrat or voting for Biden was the equivalent of voting for a socialist. And I think we need to, we're going to be discussing that over the coming weeks and really the coming months.
Exciting. We're going to be the center of conversation on CNN. Maybe they'll invite one of us on to give our perspective on whether or not the Cuban vote, which never votes for Democrats, decided not to vote for Biden because of us. Anna Navarro, Republican strategist who couldn't mobilize her voters. Guys, what do you think of that? Jordan, go for it.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know that she is wrong. I don't know that, we disagree on what it means, but Democrats let Republicans once again define them. They did not have a candidate who believed in anything. I think beyond the socialism thing, I don't want to talk about Latinos as some monolith group, right? There's a lot of different nationalities. People have been in the country for a long time. People who are newer. It's like saying white people are all the same. And, they're probably more of the same than Latinos. But what I'm saying is that, I don't want to put it all in one basket, but Democrats let Republicans define who they are. They let Republicans be the party of entrepreneurship and independence and bravado. And Democrats were, they're going to take away your pre-existing conditions on your crappy health care. There was no real effort, right? And so whether it's socialism or something else, Democrats didn't define themselves. And it's not just the messaging thing. They don't fight for anything. They didn't have a candidate who ever actually said, I'm going to do this, that, or the other thing and have it be something that they ever delivered on. And so, whether they said they're socialists, whether they said they were Nazis, whether they said they were, bigamists, who knows? It doesn't matter what they said. They called them something and Democrats didn't respond. They did nothing to get out into the community in Miami and throughout, a lot of Latin communities in Texas, the border communities for months before, Republicans were there. We poured millions and millions of dollars into the campaigns of people like Amy McGrath and, Jamie Harrison, who, John Ossoff, and they set it on fire by putting out 30-second TV commercials that said nothing. You wouldn't know what party they were from. That's the thing there. And so Democrats are always running from something, and Republicans, as repugnant as we know they are, they define themselves and they define us. And so again, whether it's socialism or not, that's sort of irrelevant. We just kind of wimped out and once again paid the consequences.
Zaid, it's very likely that Joe Biden will win, by the way. It's just it shouldn't have been so close. And also we've been wrecked down ballot. That was the top of my show, was just talking about the wrecking in a year when that's really, it's not just that we lost big in a year when we should have lost or won big. So Zaid, I'm seeing this kind of commentary coming out of CNN, but I'm also seeing commentary about, well, the country's just too partisan. It's just too partisan. But then you look at Florida where, Cuban vote, this is a wealthier, more conservative vote, always has been since the revolution. And, that vote influenced, I don't know why they were factoring in some of the Cuban vote that was never on the map. But also, Joe Biden loses Florida, but $15 minimum wage wins by 61% in Florida. So are we really that partisan, Zaid? Is this just a mirage?
Yeah, I think there's probably a couple things going on. I believe are the other guests that had raised a few good points on this as well. So one is that, we can't, when Anna Navarro goes on and talks about socialism, this is just her thing, right? This is something she's been saying for 10 plus years. She was a conservative Republican, very anti-Castro, very anti-Chavez, Venezuela. So it's kind of her pet issue. And of course, she's using that to explain the broader thing. It's not as if that was not a factor. But as you mentioned, that's been a traditional GOP vote in Florida. That's not necessarily the thing that was changing. I think the thing that was changing was that Trump ended up doing much better among younger African-American voters and among Latino voters than he did in 2016. I think a lot of people expected him to either lose support in that area or at least certainly not gain it. I think a big part of that was that in the first few years of the Trump administration, there actually was a lot of wage growth for working class African Americans and Latinos, like much more than there was under Obama, actually. And I think that's not really necessarily Trump's, like, he didn't really do anything to cause that. Maybe a little bit, because he did a little bit of stimulus, like a tax law had a little bit, but for the most part, it really wasn't his doing, but he benefited from it, I think, because Obama did such a poor job in growing working class and middle class wages. There was stagnation throughout the Obama years. And I think we didn't really recover from the Great Recession until we really started under Trump. And then when we saw a lot of wage growth there, I think that actually earned the loyalty of quite a few voters. I heard from friends who are reporters reporting in some of these Latino communities, and they actually said, a lot of them said that, yeah, we don't really love Trump's personality, but he did actually, like, we had better jobs under him. We were earning more money. And I think that was a real factor for Trump. Maybe not enough to save Trump ultimately, but it did help him grow in kind of areas that were unexpected. And I don't think that Biden and the Democrats were highly associated with anything economic in this election. I think it was largely a referendum on COVID-19 and also just on Trump's general personality and affect and the way that he manages himself. And that may be enough to get Biden over the hump in some of these key states to win the presidency, but it really wasn't enough to create kind of a hegemonic political party or a political party that was broadly popular and able to defeat the Republicans in the places it needed to in order to at least get Senate control or enough control in the government to really enact an agenda. And the reality is that I think even if Biden wins this election, I think the Republicans are actually very well set up for the next few years. If McConnell controls the Senate, if he can block any major initiatives and then blame Biden for whatever happens with the economy or business cycle, I think, the Democrats are actually in a fairly vulnerable position. Structurally, they're actually fairly weak going forward. And I think that's going to require a lot of thinking on their side to imagine if there is some way they can be something besides an anti-Trump party when there is no more Trump anymore.
Thanks for watching and listening to The Nomiki Show. But remember to click like and subscribe on YouTube, and please share on social media. If you're not already a patron, please join us for as low as $5 a month on patreon.com/The Nomiki Show for early and special content. That investment makes a huge difference. We are not corporate media raking in the dough. It's really you guys that are keeping us going. So please consider being a patron. And to our current patrons, thank you so much. We are incredibly grateful to you. We also now have swag. So check us out on thenomikishow.com to get your mugs, your totes, and your stickers.